Good morning, my name's Simon Lucas and I'm the editor of What Hi-Fi magazine in the UK. And I'm here on the international news stage today at CES 2016 in Las Vegas with Charlie Brennan, who's the managing director of Arcam, a UK hi-fi company of long-standing and enviable reputation. Charlie, how's the show been for you so far?
Well, this is 36 times I've been to Vegas.
36 times. What, to CES every time?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've spent more than 6 months of my life in Vegas. And I don't want to spend another 6 months here. But the show, I think the audio side of the business is probably a bit slower than sometimes I've seen it. But as a gadget fest, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger or any more confusing.
Well, it must have grown exponentially in 36 shows.
I think in the old days, we hung around a place called the Jockey Club originally, and then we went to the Alexis Park, which you may have been to.
Yeah.
And the Alexis Park was a very kind of friendly place, and the demos were in small kind of suites, really, rather than this sort of the massive Venetian tower. So there was no queuing for elevators. You just walked around swimming pools.
All right. Oh, it's, happy days.
But Arcam's just turning 40 this year.
40 years now.
So, another midlife crisis on the way.
And are you going to do anything to mark that particularly? Have you got?
I think we will. We're not quite sure where we're going to have a party, but there will be unlimited booze.
Oh, well, in that case, I'll put my name down.
September, I think, is the actual date.
I'll make a note of the date. And what about Arcam at this show? What have you got? Much.
We have a few new products which we're showing. In particular, a new DAC, which is an IR DAC 2, which we have had in the works for a while, and it's soon to go into full production. It has a lot more going for it than our previous DACs, and I mean, Arcam's unusual. We made the world's first outboard DAC in 1987. Yeah. And there's been a lot of development in that area, so we decided this time we would try and incorporate our Bluetooth connection, which we had developed a few years ago as a separate converter. And we've also added a headphone stage, and we've included sort of DSD functionality, which a lot of people are asking about, you know. But the main thing is that the sound quality is a big step forward, and the usability, now it has a variable output, so you can use it as a preamp if you need, and it's also got fixed volume. And
so do you think there's a facility, a kind of an educational aspect to what you do at a show like this? Because obviously where we are in terms of hi-fi and in terms of two-channel listening at the moment, the idea of mobility and streaming and sort of immediate gratification really is where people are at. Do you think that can be married to decent reproduction?
It can be, and I mean, we surprised a lot of people even by going into Bluetooth.
Sure.
That's it. But I mean, surely you can't make something that sounds good with such limited bandwidth. And I said, well, it's even more important. The fewer bits that you have, the more care
so
you
have
need
to take care of them.
And you can use your engineering expertise to get the best out of any form. So, I'm not a snob about music. I think if you can make it better, whether it starts with a sort of a battery pack or the headphone amp and this new Music Boost product, which I did.
Do you happen to have a Music Boost product
about
your person?
I have one in my pocket.
How extraordinary.
And this came out of a long sort of conversation with some of my colleagues at work. We travel a lot, and battery-itis, you might call it. We all suffer from, have I got enough? If my boarding pass doesn't show, I'm missing. But more particularly, I think it was kind of reducing people's sort of view that if they were wanting to listen to some music, that they were, running out of battery while they entertain themselves. So we made a product that has a proper Burr Brown DAC in it, a proper headphone stage, and it takes the digital audio from the Lightning connector, which Apple have made available to us. I think we're the first company in the world to use it in this configuration.
So that's
and it's quite affordable in terms of retail. In the UK, it's £120.
Is that all? Because so you've got 40 years of hi-fi expertise brought to bear on a mobile phone now.
Yeah, so we're down.
It's almost like the future, Charlie.
Well, I think the whole world is going to go mobile, but at the end of the day, I think people need to, whatever their signal source is, they still need great DACs, good amplifiers, and I'd like to think that if we can make it sound good enough that people will just stop what they're doing, listen, get lost in music every day, and they'll feel a lot better for it. And it's not just a sort of an audiophile thing. I think the power of music is well understood. But in people's busy lives, you know, wherever you can snap 20 minutes of fun, well, if it's on a train and you're being ripped off by British Rail, you might as well cry into your music boost.
No, it's a great philosophy, and if you're coming from anywhere as a way to begin with a product, then that's as good a place as any. But I think, do you feel like there's kind of the obsession with convenience and the kind of infatuation with the idea that you can have 5,000 songs right here? I mean, obviously that was appealing for a very long time, but I think that people are kind of coming around to the fact that 5,000 songs that don't sound amazing is not really necessarily a great thing.
25 million tracks, you know, that you just swipe and you don't listen, and then you get confused and you think, oh, that reminds me of something else. I think partly why people are, you know, going back and, you know, re-engaging with things like vinyl is that you physically have to stop doing something. You put something, and it forces you to listen. And I think a lot of the sort of low quality is that you're swiping to the next song because it's not really engaging. There's a lot of developments in high-res audio. I think as an industry, we've been kind of slow to get our act together. Yeah. The record company, you know, did incredibly well when CD, everybody got re-equipped. But now the streaming model, I think, is still in its infancy. Yeah. But I think we're still going to be listening to music of high quality and hopefully better quality than ever in the next 40 years. So, but I think we're still in a kind of transition. I don't think the industry's quite sure about what it should be doing.
No,
yet.
I think you're right. No,
the services that are out there, it's almost like a Tinder for songs. You know,
don't like that.
And sometimes the best music is challenging. It requires you to listen to repeat them.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be. Sometimes the best music is not immediately engaging, is it? You know, and doesn't get in your face straight away.
Yeah, it's like, you know, reading a good book, put a bit of effort into it, you know, rather than, you know, a Twitter feed, which might be amusing, but it's hardly going to change your life.
It's not philosophy, is it? So, excuse me. So, that is obviously a brilliant solution for the idea of portability and convenience. What have you got going on in terms of in the home, in terms of the more traditional?
Well, I mean, Arcam have been making AV products now for nearly 20 years, and I've always said that the thing about our Arcam AV stuff is that it's AV that makes music. Some of the larger brands have very impressive technology, but in terms of absolute sound quality, I think they sometimes leave something to be desired. It's not a cheap thing to make 7 channels of really high quality, but in the last couple of years, 7 years ago, we started making G-class amplifiers. Each year or two, the evolution goes forward, and now we're being able to sort of distill that into our new range of Solo, which is just hitting the marketplace, and the Solo movie system is just being shipped this month.
Oh, really?
And then just after Bristol, we'll have the music.
And that's the end of next month?
And that's the end of February or something.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, I take all the products home, and I've been enjoying it over Christmas, and I think they sound fantastic. But again, my whole mantra really is better sound for more people. I want to make something great that people don't have to spend an absolute fortune on, and they don't also, that has to be able to sort of fit in their living room. You know, not everybody wants a tower of power and a rack and lots of cable.
There's very little virtue in it anymore, is there? There used to be, I know there was a time in this industry where that was actually a positive virtue, when something was very expensive, quite ugly, took a lot of space.
And when you lived on your own, that was okay. But
those were the days, though, weren't they? Very much.
If someone's unlucky enough to marry you, you know, then they have a say too.
Yeah, well, apparently so. Yeah. And you're 36 years now, and 36 years at this show, 40 years of Arcam. Yeah. So, with five years from now, what are you going to whip out of your pocket? What's it? if I may be so bold.
You probably take Apple Pay directly, so the adverts will be placed. And I think, you know, obviously as connection speeds go up, there will be higher quality audio available for mobile devices. But I think great amplifiers and speakers are not going to go out of fashion. No. But the whole sort of multi-room world, music on the go is just a fact of life. And I think from the conversations we're having here that some things like the direct room correction system, which we've been using on our receivers, we've also introduced that in our 2-channel receiver, which is a product I've been trying to get the guys to make.
Well, the two-channel receiver had it had fallen from fashion, hadn't it?
Well, I'm old enough to remember in the States, everybody bought two-channel receivers in the 70s, and numbers were, and you know, okay, FM is not a big thing anymore.
Sure,
but that was driving the market before CD actually came, where you know, FM came into the main market in the 60s. And when I was living in San Francisco, I mean, having sort of escaped the UK for a while, the amount of incredible radio stations that were on, and it's a great way to listen to music.
Sure.
And I still think there's some amazing stations if you have the time to explore around the world. You
No,
can
most
hear,
definitely.
You know, bluegrass or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, I think one of the most internet radio might be one of the most democratizing things that's happened to music. You know.
Yeah. And you know, so if you can follow people who really, you know, the sort of tomorrow's John Peel or whatever.
Sure.
I think there will be people out there, and it's interesting that, you know, you need real journalists, real music lovers. An algorithm isn't enough, when, you know, to recommend things. Although they're getting maybe a better, there are some laughable suggestions still, which I'm sure you see all the time.
Yeah, often, but it's true enough.
But I mean, I got into this business when I was a kid and sold hi-fi in Dublin, where I was growing up, and then I worked for Lynn for many years, and I'm very keen on dealers' education, demonstration, and just as particularly installation, and to sort of paraphrase Tony Blair, installation.
Sure.
Good equipment, well installed, is really worth having. Great equipment, badly installed, is a real disappointment.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's never what it ought to be. Do you think that that's something that is that's fallen off the radar a little bit in terms of retail?
I think a lot of people are trying to sort of aggregate opinion from all over the world. They think that people who write blogs and so on don't, you know, are independent and don't have an axe to grind.
Sure.
But you can't get a demo on the net, you know, and people can hear the differences quite easily if the equipment is well set up.
No, that's true.
So, you know, I fell in love with the stuff when I heard it. I didn't fall in love when I read about it, you know.
No, of course.
So I think it's going to be easier and easier for people to have a higher quality music experience, but they still have to have somewhere quiet where they can sit down and listen to it, and that's not that easy to do in a click and collect point, you know.
Sure.
And if you don't like it, you can send it back. But actually, the thing is, if you don't know what you're doing with audio, you can get a pretty average result. And so I'm very keen on educating dealers to do a better job.
That's excellent. That's a great point to leave it on. Listen, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you, and it's an actual, genuine philosophy, which we haven't had that much of on this stage, if I'm honest.
Oh, nice to hear
so
that.
Thanks very much for your time. Thank you, man.
Cheers then. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Keep checking in with us at whathifi.com and on our YouTube channel, and we'll be back soon.